Welcome to Lifting Leaders Podcast, where we are unleashing leader possibilities to make a better world. I'm Crystal Roberts, and together with Trisha Ryan, we're diving deeper into some of the complexities of the world's most critical challenges and exploring innovative ways of navigating through them.
Through interviews with experts and leaders just like you, we're exploring what it takes to thrive as a leader today and examining new ways of thinking about how to creatively lead into a more equitable, socially responsible, and sustainable future. And the future starts now.
Hi, Trisha.
Hi, Crystal. How are you?
I'm awesome.
Are you getting ready for it?
The holidays?
Yes. And the end of the podcast for the year.
Oh, yeah. This is our wrap of the wrap.
It really
wrap of
is.
the series and wrap of the year.
It is.
Wrap squared. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Wrap squared. Well,
Yeah.
there are two of us, so I mean, it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, this episode is going to be an interesting one because we have kind of a dual role here, right? We have to not only end our year, which is something we do every year, and it's important, right? We want to make sure we give creds to where they're due, and what are we going to do about it, right?
Yeah.
But we are wrapping a series.
Yeah.
And this series has been so amazing, hasn't it?
It's been really fun. When I was going back and reviewing all of the episodes, I was just blown away by the amazing guests that we had. We were so fortunate to have all those people.
Yeah.
And again, the reason why we're doing it is because we were inspired by the incredible coaches that we've met over the last couple of years. And so these are just a few of them, but they did a fantastic job, and it was so much fun, and it was really inspiring.
I was so blown away by the different niches that we had represented here. I mean, there are so many more out there, obviously.
Yeah.
But niches I never would have probably thought much about before, but now I'm thinking about it a lot. And now I'm starting to explore what other niches do we have that we've not even touched on.
Yeah.
That we might, I don't know, do something similar in another year.
We could fill a whole nother series for sure.
Yeah.
With all the amazing work that they're doing. And it's so well aligned with what we're trying to do in the podcast, which is to make a better world.
Yes.
And so each one of them is really making an impact on the world. And so it filled my heart every time.
It was so encouraging to me. I felt like we were sitting with really good people who are making a better world. They are making our world a better place. And they're doing it in some cases one client at a time.
Yeah.
But their messages are like ripples, right? Their messages are like that stone that gets dropped in the water, and the ripple effect is really far and wide. And I'm glad that we had them on our podcast because we have a great listening audience.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just another 5 or 6 ripples that, send us out, send these messages out. And I'm hoping that they get more people to reach out to them as well, because their messages, we had them for such a short period of time.
Yeah.
We only got a snippet of what they really have to offer, right?
Yes. Yeah, for sure. And it made me proud to be a coach.
Yes.
It really did. I thought, I'm so glad that this is a decision I made in my life to go down this path of coaching. And just, they're my people. They're my people. And they're leaders. They're leaders, right? So, what a fun time. And we hope you had fun listening along with us. And if you didn't catch all of them, to go back and actually take a listen. It's definitely worth the time. And so we're going to take a little walk down memory lane, just really quick about each of those episodes and some of the things that we took away from them. And we obviously aren't going to touch on everything that was in that episode, but just a couple of things that really hit our hearts as we reviewed what we learned from each of these coaches. And so our series actually started with Megan Patino, and she talked a little bit about her grand adventure that she took with her family, and all of the learning and and takeaways that she had from that adventure. And so my takeaways on that one were to go on your own adventure, push your boundaries, get outside your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. She talked a lot about metabolizing fear, that you have to go ahead, even though you have fear, to be able to continue to take action and basically walk with the fear.
Yes.
To make space for creativity. And she talked a little bit about these artist dates where you go for 2 hours without any purpose, without anyone with you, just yourself, and you do whatever you want for 2 hours. And that really helps you get back in touch with yourself.
Talk about a rich concept. I hadn't even, I was thinking, wow, really? Like time by yourself to just do anything you want? That's amazing.
Yeah, I loved it. So I was inspired by her and her story. And for me, for 2025, what I'm taking away is really to take more even everyday adventures. We talked about even just a trip to the grocery store, pick up something that you normally don't pick up, find a new recipe and try it. And just little things to kind of shake up your day and to see things in a new way.
I think, for me, what I took away from that was a little bit about risk taking. Yeah. Because, I can't even imagine. I know she had her family with her, but that in itself was, could cause all sorts of angst because she had children, and she had a few situations that were kind of, would have been frightening. But the risks of, risking all sorts of things in an effort to have a richer life and have a greater understanding of people in the world we're in and how to navigate the world a little differently. I thought that was brilliant. And that was one thing that really stood out for me, was risk-taking.
And then we had Tracy Staffen on, and she talked about the word that nobody wanted to say.
That's right. Menopause.
Menopause.
Oh my gosh.
And I loved this episode because we took on something that was a little bit challenging and maybe even, I don't know if I'd call it controversial, but anyway, kind of a hard topic to talk about. And I think the thing that I was really blown away with was when she was talking about, she was sort of scoping this for us and saying that 51% of the world is women, and we spend about 30% of our time in menopause. Yeah. Most women do. And it's so impactful, right? Yes. It's impactful to our lives, but it's impactful to the world. Yes. And we don't really talk about it. And so just that awareness for me was just kind of overwhelming. And I thought, we need to be talking about this.
Yes.
We need to be thinking about it from an organizational perspective. How are we supporting women in this? And it's just a normal, natural part of life that happens. Mm-hmm. So what do we do to accommodate it, but also to celebrate it?
I think, part of my thinking as I was listening to her was that, when we have benefit packages in organizations, they do a lot to help younger or people who are starting their families, right? They do so many things. There are so many wonderful programs now to help people who really want to have children and people who can't have children. There are even programs to help them with that within an organization's benefit package. And yet there's nothing to support women going through menopause. And I thought that was pretty interesting that was not something that was focused on, particularly since, as you said, we're in menopause for a third of our lives.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
And these days, women live a lot longer than they used to. So it's maybe a little bit more than a third of your life in some cases, right?
Yeah.
Half of your life. And so it's not something that we want to ignore. I also felt really very empowered as I was listening to her and thinking, I am not going to be so quick to take a doctor's response to something as important as my health and my journey through menopause, just because their textbooks told them to do it that way. I'm never going to do that again. I will be much braver about asking questions and pushing the envelope if I don't hear what makes sense to me. And so I thought that was just brilliant of her to say that. And she was bold enough to say it, but she said it in a way that I think our listeners really heard a message that did not sound threatening.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to, and it shouldn't sound threatening. This is a part of her life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And that's staying curious about not just, like you said, not just accepting that this is a normal part of aging, that we have to feel this way. It's like there's things that we can do to be actually healthier, healthier hearts, healthier bodies, healthier bones, if we take care of things that are happening to us in menopause.
And how, as coaches, we can help women who are going through, and men, actually, men who are, living in a world where menopause is a part of their life, you know, because they have a spouse or a significant other or a family member who is going through it, right? Yeah. And I think it's important that coaches keep that in mind, especially as we're talking about, in some cases, life coaching, where you're not just talking about one particular little moment in somebody's life. A lot of times you're helping them on a journey, a new journey, and it could be a journey to retirement, but isn't that happening a lot of times around the same time as menopause? So there are some new ways of looking at things, I think, for coaches, that they can use that information. It'll be very informative as they're, posing the right questions for people, or coming up with some really amazing questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
For me, I think what inspired me around that for next year is just what you were talking about. It's like, where are the places that I can push a little to ask the question, is that really true? Mm-hmm. And is that all? And maybe it's around menopause, maybe it's around aging, or anything else. It's like having that courage and bravery to ask the questions. Yeah. Josh Sparanio was amazing. I loved his messages as well around highly sensitive people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was, I loved that episode. I have such a great respect for Josh. And, we talked about how we had all met in another program at one point. But some of the things I took away from that conversation, there was so much richness there. He had so much to tell us. But when we were talking about leaders and how, we look at leadership and some leaders are afraid to show their vulnerability, and they lose so much in the process, by being so strong or trying to mask something that is really not who they are, and how there are so many people who would warm up to a leader if they just if it's a highly sensitive person, or at least they acknowledged that and tried to understand what high sensitivity is, right?
Yeah.
That they could go volumes with inspiring their own organizations or inspiring their own teams just by showing up as being more vulnerable, and how that actually is, and Josh said it, it's actually showing strength. That is a strength. It is not a weakness to be a highly sensitive person. It's actually a strength.
Yeah.
He asked a question, and when I was talking to him before the interview, he said something about, I guess you could always ask the question, would you rather work for a highly sensitive person or a highly insensitive person? And of course, my question or my answer is going to always be, I'd rather be with a sensitive person, someone who can relate and someone who has empathic qualities that enable me to be who I am, right?
Yeah, yeah. And our responsibility, I think, as leaders, to have our own self-awareness around this and other neurodivergent strengths.
Yes.
And the challenges that come with that. And really opening that conversation and being an advocate for creating workplaces where they can be successful.
Yeah, and you know what? You said something that just kind of sparked again when you were saying their strengths. And I think that for me, and what will inform me this next year, is I'm not just going to be an advocate for these people as if they're different. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be actually celebrating the people that I know are highly sensitive, or the people that I know are carrying some other, neurodivergent way of life, right?
Yeah.
That really lets them celebrate openly in front of other people so that everybody sees that they're not any different than we are.
Yeah.
We are all the same. In fact, I feel like now I did that test that was on the website.
Oh, did you do it?
Yes. And guess what?
What?
I'm highly sensitive.
Shocking.
I know, really. I'm a highly sensitive person, and I'm proud of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm very proud of it. So it's going to inform how I celebrate with people, how their sensitivity helps me bring out and celebrate them. I think it's important. And it's time. We need to stop looking at people as if they're different and start looking for, I mean, I know we're all different, and I celebrate that, but I think we also need to celebrate the fact that they're not so different that we have to treat them differently at work or at play or at anything else. To me, there's no reason for that. You know, I have a cousin who has cerebral palsy, and he is absolutely brilliant, an absolutely brilliant person.
Yeah.
And if you sit and listen to him and talk to him for 10, 15 minutes, you'll know that.
Yeah.
But a lot of people won't do that because it's uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, and I know this isn't where you were headed with this, but I do think in that difference that we do want to treat people differently.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Celebrate it.
Well, celebrate it, but also I think we have to be okay in our organizations to give people what they need to be successful.
Yes.
Is it somebody who needs an extra 15 minutes before they go into a meeting to transition and get their stuff together and focus because they can be more successful that way? Is it somebody who needs an environment that is not so loud?
Right.
Maybe they need to actually be able to put earphones on and that not be seen as being disrespectful. You know what I mean? It's like we have to be open to accommodations that help people be successful.
No, and I wasn't going down that way,
know.
so thank you. I'm glad you mentioned that. And also there's something that I think we've had in our environment for a really long time. When we look at people who are demonstrating extroverted behaviors and people who are, demonstrating introverted behaviors, because we're not one or the other, we demonstrate that, right? But people who are demonstrating introverted behaviors often need a little more time to speak what they think, because they're thinking internally and they're processing, where people like me who are, demonstrating extroverted behaviors, I process externally. I'll talk, and you hear me all the time. You are so patient with me because that's what I do. But in a work setting, we have a lot of people who are like me, who will, process externally, and sometimes that creates a little bit of conflict. But there are a lot of people who have amazing responses. They have brilliant ideas, and we need to give them time to do that. So being in a meeting and a leader not being able to maybe understand that, they may be someone who is demonstrating more extroverted behaviors themselves, to acknowledge and respect the fact that they've got team members who may really just need a few moments before they say something that blows everybody out of the water because they actually thought something through in the quiet of their mind rather than, outside where everybody is kind of competing for the better answer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's figuring out how do we help people show up the best that we can get the most and the best from them.
Yeah, I actually loved that episode. Yeah. There was so much there that I could probably listen to it another 3 or 4 times and I'd unpack more.
I know. And then we had Melissa Castro, who talked about
our heart,
our intrinsic leadership and millennial leaders.
Yes,
and so much richness there as well. And I loved that she reminded us, and we talk a lot about this, but I love to hear other people talk about it, is that everyone is a leader.
Yes.
And that was a really big message that she left us with. No matter who you are and where you are, we all do lead. Not all can. We all do lead, whether we choose to look at that or not. We do influence people. Yeah.
Yeah, she was wonderful. I really loved the, just kind of putting words to the way we feel about some things and the differences between the generations that, we've acknowledged that before, but that's important to remember that. And it's not just millennials who are different. We're all different. And it's how do we learn to dance with each other? To me, there was so much there that I wanted to unpack some more, and how do we lead? How do we embrace millennial leaders and have them, maybe shift the way we think about things, the way we approach things. It's not always, my baby boomer way of looking at it, right? Although I am more of not so much a baby boomer, but the next generation. Thank you very much.
Well, I think what was interesting about that for me was it even goes a little farther than that. I would say she was talking about how they are, I think it was 35% of the working population right now. And so whether we like it or not, they are shaping, just because they're there, they are shaping the cultures around us. And so that was another sort of eye-opening thing for me to think about, the impact of that. And they're going to become more and more of a percentage of the workforce. And so whether we like it or not, it's happening. Yeah, the shaping of the culture by that generation.
Right. And, I think when I look at some of the Gen Zs that are, Gen Z people that are in my own organization, I see more of a connection between millennials and Gen Zs than I have seen between, like baby boomers and the next generation, Gen X, yeah. So, to me, there was such a big disparity there between those two for some reason, and they're right next to each other. And so I kind of found that to be interesting, but I think there's a lot of similar thinking between millennials and Gen Z. I think there is, the fact that they look at our earth differently. They look at how we be more intentional when we do things. They talk about how they feel a lot more openly, and I thought that was brilliant. I've heard that about millennials, but I've also heard a lot of Gen Z say the same thing. And so I think the fact that we're being more open with our feelings, we're being more open to speak our minds about what we don't like and what we're not willing to do. I love that. I think it's time, right?
Yeah. I thought it was interesting too that we kind of discovered in the moment when she was talking about what millennials are sort of looking for, just like you're talking about there, that's very closely aligned with what people usually are looking for in the second half of their careers.
Yes.
And so I thought, that it was so interesting. So we have these two sort of generations coming alongside, looking at things differently, but wanting the same thing. And so I thought, wow, we need to maybe highlight that a little bit more. It's like, where do we have things that are in common?
I think there are opportunities in the next year, for at least for me anyway, to take a look at those incoming new employees who are from these two generations, basically, and look for ways to be curious with them about their thoughts around what we do. And I think it's important to tap into that. We're so busy in our own worlds talking about what we expect from new people. But often those new people, we wouldn't be hiring them if we didn't need them for something, right?
Yeah.
You don't hire people just because you're hiring. You hire because you either need something or you're planning to do something different. And perfect timing, come in millennial, come in Gen Z, and we will take the richness that you bring and your ideas, and we may not adopt them all. But it's a conversation, and it's that openness and that curiosity to talk to each other. I think that was good.
Yeah. And of course, I shouldn't say everyone, but many people are dealing with burnout, and their generation is sort of leading the effort around talking about it and talking about wellness, mental wellness.
Yes.
And she was talking about they're the first generation that started with work happening all the time because it's the phone in your pocket that you can be contacted at any time. And so this idea of work-life integration and this sort of new concepts around pockets of peace. So instead of work-life balance, it's finding moments. It's not completely saying I'm not going to answer my phone on my vacation, although I'm still sticking to that. Thank you. And having weekends free and that sort of thing. But it's about integration and finding pockets of peace. And so for me, that really struck me. And I thought that is something I really want to think about for next year, is maybe that's really more where I want to go. I still want to have a clear distinction. For me, I do. For my mental health, I need to have downtime that doesn't have work.
Right.
But even in those times that I'm working, where can I find pockets of peace? I love that term. So it's sort of like the micro doses there of goodness.
I think that's going to be a goal for me as well, because one of my challenges in life, and always has been since I was probably 2, is that my brain is busy. I'm always thinking about something, and if I'm not, I'm thinking about that. Why am I not thinking about something? And I'll start unpacking things. It's just a busy mind, and to hear her say that, I was thinking, how do you do that? And so it's a quest. I think it's going to have to be an experiment to see how I can do that, because that's a new concept. One thing when you're talking about the mental health and what mental well-being, and I was thinking, yes, she did talk about how this was the first generation where work was 24/7, right?
Yeah.
But the way for so long people that I know have thought of millennials and Gen Z was that they've had all these wonderful tools at their disposal from the time they were born.
Yeah.
And I don't look at it that way anymore, because Melissa kind of opened my eyes. I mean, I never even thought of it from that perspective before. It's not a gift that you had an iPad in your crib, It's not a gift at all. You are now producing something. And there may be pressure around that. And there may be a lot of pressure around how you perform in school differently and all of those things. And so just her talking about that was an eye-opener for me. I never thought of it that way, and I'm never going to think differently now. I'm always going to be thinking about what are the pressures associated with it as opposed to what are the gifts that come with it, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Then we had our encore.
Yay!
With Amy Yip, and being able to celebrate that amazing award that she got for her book.
Yes.
So, Trisha, what kind of things come to mind for you with Amy's episode?
Well, and this was the same thing that we experienced the first time, but it's thinking about, this book that she put out was just such a wonderful, wonderful book. I love the way it was written. I love the fact that at the end of each chapter there was like this, conversation with her dad, or, it was, to me, that was just such an important thing. But one of the things that I took away from our time with Amy was that living our lives having sort of an expectation or an assumption of how our parents are seeing us and how our parents are guiding us and what their expectations are of us, we don't often actually have that conversation. And by not having the conversation, we may mold or shift our life direction on an assumption or on something that we really don't know. And it wasn't until she sat down and talked to her parents and pushed back a little bit about things that they thought were important, but by sharing what was important to her, that they opened their eyes, and she was able to start living her life differently.
Yeah.
And it's still something I think she's unpacking. And we all do that. We spend our lives unpacking all of that stuff. But it's the difference between that connection and realizing that just being a parent and just being a child, it's not a job, it's not a role. It is, there's a reason why, the need for that connection and the lessons learned and the wisdom that comes from, just listening to your family and hearing what they say, and then taking a look at it and unpacking it if it's a problem, and trying to figure out what the better is. I love that she did that, and she's doing that. And the cool thing about it is she's now got 2 children. Yeah. And I think that Logan is probably already living his best life, because, Amy and her husband are very much in tune with raising their kids to be more open and brave and independent and stuff. And that's the thing she's had to learn, right?
Yeah.
So that's sort of what I took away. And for me, that goes with family in general. I have a sister. That's my last sort of immediate family member. And the same thing holds for that. I think we often have assumptions about how our siblings or our other family members are holding us in their minds and in their hearts. And I think having a conversation and being brave to have ones that are not always so comfortable is a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we change over time, right? Those relationships shift. And being aware of the impact of our childhood, and how if we aren't aware, we can drag some of those old roles, those old habits, the old things that served us well at the time because we had to survive, but sometimes they're not working for us anymore, and it becomes more of an adult to an adult relationship.
Right.
And
isn't that a lot of what coaches sometimes unpack?
Yeah.
It's not that that's our goal, but it certainly comes out a lot in coaching, I think, as, our upbringing, our childhood, our foundation. And, coaching is all about going, how are we going to do things more effectively or land where we want to land or whatever. But it usually requires a little bit of a deep dive into something that may be holding you back from that, right?
Yeah. So loved being able to have that as an encore episode. And then our last one, our capstone with Dr. Pam McLean and Michael Hudson, just was the most appropriate capstone in 2 episodes, right?
I could think of no better people to be in this series at that point, as our capstone.
Yeah.
We started with Pam and Michael, and we end this series with Pam and Michael. We didn't start the series. We started our coaching with Pam and Michael, right?
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. My number one takeaway was really thinking about, as they were talking about, these times require new models.
Yes.
But what was really interesting was the new models are rooted in the good thinking of the past.
Yes.
And some of the brilliant thinkers. Those things still hold true. But what we need to do is help people understand them in the way that Michael said it was a simple and elegant way. Our world is moving so fast. We need to help people understand things quickly, apply them quickly.
Yes.
And that will help people adopt them and become more effective leaders in the moment and over time.
Yes, I agree. And I was thinking, I read his paper over and over again because there was so much to grab from that. There really is. And then talking to them about this, I took it a step further. I mean, I really got an even deeper understanding. I love that, the whole idea of moving forward in learning and development of our leaders and everybody on earth these days, is we live in a world where things are instant. Things are happening by the nanosecond, by the terasecond, whatever, right? And so we don't have the luxury of sending people to a classroom and having them sit there with all of that time and money that's being, spent to do that, only to have them go back and not retain what they've, or be able to articulate or use what they've learned. And so I love the idea of, taking like little snippets of learning a lot, like every day, or whatever. But it's a great way to unpack. It's not so uncomfortable for people. It doesn't come with a ton of pressure. There are so many things that I love about that idea, and there were so many things from our first episode anyway that and the second one. Oh my gosh, it's amazing that we were able to unpack so much. And then Pam bringing our foundation, this, she I've never known that woman to sit on her laurels or to sit back on a foundation and not move forward. She's always thinking about the next, the new, the future. And that's exciting. It's exciting to have, mother and son, sitting there with just the most powerful messages that can really shift not just coaches, but people, our world. They're making the world a better place in so many ways.
Yeah. Yeah. And the fact that they've been doing it for 40 years, that Hudson has, they have a strong future ahead. They are the gold standard.
Yes,
they are leading the coaching field. And so the ripples are huge, right?
Yes.
The ripples are huge. So, yeah, I'm really proud to be a part of that group, and I'm glad that we were able to use them or have them, invite them to be the capstone for the series. It was a great way to end it.
Yeah, it really was, and it's quite an honor to have them. They are the most down-to-earth people you could ever expect to talk to, and they have such a huge influence on the world. So it's amazing. Yeah. We were really, really blessed for that one.
Yeah, yeah. So jumping off of that's our series.
Yes.
Thinking about wrapping the year, I would say that series for me was really a highlight.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
We had a really wonderful year. I mean, we traveled.
We went to New York.
Yes, we did.
And we got to see a dream come true for Victoria Campbell. Yeah. And Andrew
it was a
Koopman.
dream. And it was a dream come true for me too. I mean, honestly, we've been talking to Victoria about this for almost a year. Or I guess it might have been a year.
Yeah.
And then it came about. It really happened. And to watch them and to talk to them the day of
Earth Day.
Yes, it was on Earth Day before people went on stage. We got to sit with them for an hour.
Yes.
And talk about how they felt about everything and how they felt about all the work they had done to get to this moment. And that was rich. I loved that episode. I thought it was wonderful, and it was so nice and exciting to be there with them and to sit and watch that live and experience it in the moment and to watch Victoria across the room, and every time something would land, it was landing just the way she had planned it, because her eyes would close like she was, and her head would go back a little bit. It was like, yes, it was great. That was a lovely episode, and it was actually a wonderful journey for us, I think, to go through that.
Yeah.
And New York was kind of fun.
Yeah. And what we were talking about, I don't think we said what it was. We were so excited about it. It was watching Treason, which is an eco musical. It was premiering on Off-Broadway. Yeah.
And it was beautiful.
And being in New York, oh my gosh. So on Earth Day, we were strolling through Central Park, listening to a performer.
At Strawberry Fields.
At Strawberry Fields.
Yes.
Yeah. Play the song Imagine. I mean, there were so many moments that were
there were people dance. A couple
amazing.
People danced, and there were, that was such a lovely afternoon. It was so beautiful. And just walking Central Park, I love that park. And I used to walk it a lot when I lived on the East Coast, but man, it's been a while. And that was such a perfect day. It was sunny and clear, and, it was just great.
I wonder what we'll do for Earth Day this year.
I think we're going to have to think of something. We can't top it. We may have to just think of something completely different, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We have to call Vicky. Oh.
Yeah. And let's see what else was going on this year. Just a few things.
We're going to have, we got a lot going on this year, but we've got a couple of our folks that we have had in the past are coming back in 2025 with new and different things, right? We had Carla Andrazik, who came to us to talk about don't try, just do.
Yes.
And she wrote a book, and it is being published as we speak.
Yeah.
And so in the fall, it is going to drop. She's going to come and visit us early in the year, but she's also going to come back and talk to us about this wonderful book that is being published by a major publishing company. So I'm excited about that. She's gotten a lot of traction on it in the last year.
Yeah. We had several authors this year.
Yes.
And that was really exciting. So much good work is being done out there. And so we're all benefiting from being able to read those books and get smarter.
Yes.
Loved that. We had another series called Opening Your Heart to Make a Better World. And we kicked that one off with Peter Block.
Oh, my goodness.
So,
I know.
I mean, that was just an incredible interview as well. So much fun. And
I
just
missed
so
it.
impactful.
I didn't miss listening to it, but that was my COVID moment. So unfortunately, I came down with COVID the day before the interview. So Crystal and Peter spent time together, and it was beautiful. It was so well done. And if you haven't heard that episode, I really recommend that you take time. It aired on March 31st. So if you can go back in Spotify or Apple or wherever you listen and look for something that happened at the end of March, that was the beginning of the series. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Community.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. Community. We actually kicked the year off with an amazing duo. You remember that? Yes.
Sasha and Judy.
Yeah. Judy Oyedele and Sasha Farley, fellow podcasters. So that was so fun to actually have another set of podcasters on the show.
And what amazing topic. It was on human flourishing.
Yes.
And such an important thing. And, it's not as simple as, the word flourishing, can mean thriving or whatever. You can, but it's beyond that. It's more than that. And it has a responsibility to it in a way. It's a lot. And they talk to us about their PERMA model. And if you are interested in, it's not their PERMA model, but it is the model that they followed. And if you're interested in knowing more about that, it's episodes 82 and 83. It was so rich that we had to break that episode into 2 episodes because we had so much great information. One of the things that I took away from that is flourishing is not about fixing. Flourishing is about, growing and it's not evolving, but elevating in a way, and there are steps to get there, and there are ways to know where you are in the journey to flourish, but I loved that they said it's not about fixing. And I guess I had always kind of thought, it's one or the other. You're either, fixing an ill and you're getting better and then you're flourishing. But no, it's not. It doesn't have to be that at all.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Love that. I think you're making me want to go back and listen to it again.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go.
It was great. It was very rich.
During our break, I will be listening to all of last year's podcast again.
Yes. We had another author. We had several authors on, but just want to do a quick call out to Lindsay Godwin. She was on a couple of different times and talking about her paper the first time around OD and saving the world, essentially. And then also her children's book.
How Do You Love a Question?
Yeah.
What Such a beautiful book. The artwork alone in that book is worth the buy. But when you get to the messages that are in there, it's a children's book that is for everybody, for every age. It was gorgeous. I love that book. And I've talked a lot about it with people that I work with since then because it's a good topic to go over. There are a lot of times we don't ask questions.
Yeah.
She made some really great points about how children ask a gajillion questions, right? When they're little, you're just asking questions all the time. And as we go and experience life, we ask fewer and fewer questions. And I wonder, while we're asking fewer and fewer questions, does that mean we're assuming more? Or does that mean that we have let go of and we don't want to know? Or have we lost our curiosity? Or are we afraid to be curious? A lot of questions come out of that, but as adults, we ask very few questions in a day.
Yeah.
And it's kind of alarming when I heard the difference between a few hundred and 6 or something like that. It was like, what?
Yeah.
So, it was an eye-opener for me that she brought up some of those statistics, and I started thinking, we need to be more curious. We need to, especially right now, where our world is right now and how everything that's going on in the world, we need to be more curious.
Yeah.
That's my view.
Yeah. That's where it all starts. Yeah. We had, and of course we're not talking about every single thing that we did, but we had many gems episodes. We had
yes, we did.
Some coaches corners. So lots of really fun stuff. I'm so proud of the year that we had, and we hope that these next couple of weeks you will actually go back and maybe listen to a couple of your favorite episodes, because we are actually taking a break.
Yes, we are.
We will be back January 6th. We'll be dropping a fantastic episode, and you're going to love it. So
yes, you are.
We hope you have happy holidays. We hope you have a wonderful new year.
And thank you so much for listening over this year. We are so appreciative of you. We really are. It's something that we love doing. We love doing this podcast. And we also love the people who come on and talk with us.
Yeah.
We love the topics that we get to talk about. And we wouldn't be able to do this if you didn't spend time listening to us.
Yeah.
And we would love to hear how you feel about it. We'd love to hear your views on how things land with you. It would be wonderful. Feedback is a gift, and we've said it before, but it really is.
Yeah.
And for us, whether it is constructive or, positive feedback, we are open to taking it, and we would love to hear from you. It could inform our future, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely. And we're so excited about some of the things we're doing in 2025.
Oh,
yeah.
I can't wait. I can't wait
to share some of those things with you, but we'll wait.
Yes, I know.
We'll wait till 2025.
Crystal won't let me talk about it.
But it'll be fun. It's going to be a great year, and so happy to be doing it together.
Thank you for the gifts of this year. You too. I've loved every second of it, and our friendship and our partnership is beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. Right back at you. So let's keep the conversation going. If you have questions or comments about the show, you can find us on all our social media channels at lifting_leaders. We have so many exceptional podcast episodes coming up with more fantastic guests. So be sure to subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcast or wherever you listen. If you know someone who would find this episode inspiring or informative, share it with them, text them, email them, or take a screenshot and share it on your Instagram and tag us at lifting_leaders. If you'd like to know more about us, our guests, or the show, please go to our website at liftingleaderspodcast.com. You'll find our show notes there as well. If you're looking for help in developing your leaders or would like a growth opportunity yourself through leader coaching, please contact us through our website at www.liftingleaderspodcast.com. And both Trisha and I have a little opening on our schedule, so we would love to hear from you if you are looking to find a coach. We've got a little capacity at the beginning of the year.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you to Ari Chance Roberts for his technical support of our show. Finally, please take 30 seconds and follow us. It helps you because you never miss an episode, and it helps us because you never miss an episode. To follow us, go to the Lifting Leaders Podcast Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Then just tap the plus sign in the upper right-hand corner or click on follow. While you're there, if you'd be willing to give us a 5-star rating and review and share the episode with a friend, we'd be so grateful. Thank you, Trisha, for a fantastic year.
Thank you, Crystal. It was so much fun.
And many thanks to you, our listeners. We really do appreciate you. Find ways every day to lift each other up. Have a fabulous couple of weeks. We'll see you January 6th.
Happy holidays.
Bye.